Hello and welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Journey podcast. I am your host, Sana, here, and I'm glad you are here with us today because before we begin, I want to acknowledge something here. This episode is going to explore territory that some of you might find deeply resonant and others might find, let's say, challenging. Because we are going to talk about past lives, soul contracts, and trauma that supposedly comes or travels across lifetimes. And I know that for some listeners, this might sound too far out there. For others, it might be exactly what you have been searching for. And here's what I ask, stay with me. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, whether you think the soul is eternal or consciousness ends with our last breath, there is something valuable in exploring how our deepest wounds show up in our lives and what it takes to heal them. And listeners, today's guest has a story that defies easy explanation. Donna Hartley survived 6 near-death experiences. Let me say that again, 6 times. She's crossed over and come back. A plane crash, emergency heart surgery, stage 3 melanoma, malnutrition at age 6. Each time she says she encountered guides, angels, and beams of light who sent her back with a message. So now Donna has become a past life reader and spiritual teacher who helps people understand patterns they can't seem to break. Self sabotage, fear, lack of self worth, toxic relationships by looking at what she calls unfinished karmic business from previous lifetimes. So whether you think she's accessing the Akashic records or maybe tapping into the collective unconscious, or maybe simply reading psychological patterns with extraordinary intuitions, well, that's for you to decide. I leave it to you. So, listeners, today we are going to talk about trauma that doesn't seem to have an origin in this lifetime. We are going to explore those inexplicable feelings of deja vu when you visit a place you have never been. And we are going to ask the hard questions too. Because if we are talking about souls choosing difficult lives, we need to talk about what that means for people who are suffering right now. So, listeners, let's begin because this conversation might change something in you. So, Donna, welcome to the Mindful Journey, and I'm really glad that you're here with us to share.
Thank you. What an incredible introduction. I appreciate that. And you're right. You set it up for the listeners to say they have to decide because if patterns show up in this life that they can't explain, and if they go back to a past life and that where the root of that issue or that pattern started, then they can start to heal it in this life. So for all your listeners, no matter if you believe or not, because even if you just have a trauma in this life and you think it did come from a past life, let's just find the steps of how you can start to heal it and look at it. So let me start off with an example and how this works. So my daughter, okay, always had this fear of spiders, and I mean little tiny spiders, okay? She would scream bloody murder, and I mean scream, 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 scream. It would just I mean, people would just go, "She's freaking out." Now, I live in Northern California. We have bears, okay? Did you hear that correctly? Bears that walk by our house, that have broken into houses, that everything. I mean, they're what? 300, 400, 500 pounds. A bear does not scare her. She gets the blowhorn, like a big blowhorn, she blows it. I mean, she's very mindful of them, she stays away, but it doesn't scare her. So she said to me, "Mom, why do spiders?" I said, "Let's do a past life because it doesn't make sense. This is a pattern that you're afraid of that doesn't make sense. You weren't even bitten by a spider in this lifetime." So when I went back way, way back in time to the Sahara Desert and I saw her married, she married at like 17, uh, They had tents that went across and camels. She married a trader. There was other wives, other children. Her life was fantastic. She loved her husband. She loved her children. She loved her lifestyle. She loved all of that. And then a spider at night climbed up on her leg and bit her, a poisonous spider. She only had hours to tell everyone she loved them, to worry about her children who would raise them and everything. Her whole life was taken away at a young age. So guess what? That locked in her soul, in her
Mhm.
soul. So in this life, it was an irrational behavior. So for your listeners, I want them to ask, is there something they're afraid of, like getting in an elevator or being in a small room? Because that could come from another life. Once I helped my daughter understand what the pattern was and that she could go in her mind, forgive herself, forgive the spider, you know, everybody, and still love herself and say, that was then. That's not now. Now, first she cried, of course. She cried, and that's letting it out. But then she substituted that fear with, thank you for allowing me to understand that so I don't have to be fearful. Now, she will not scream when she sees the spider. She still doesn't like them, but she's okay. She's not traumatized by it. So there's an example of a behavior in this life that really can't be explained. So it started in another life. Did that answer your question?
Actually, I mean, because, it can be either just a simple explanation or maybe or just a logical explanation to this, but through an example which I think most of our listeners, almost every one of us, would relate with, because Nora, I am terrified of reptiles, especially lizards or snakes. I'm terrified of them, like, uh, for me, more than anything, I'm absolutely fearful about lizards, and that's one of the reason that um you know when we enter any house or any we go back to our homes, we usually kind of, either we see, okay, everything is clean or not, washroom is fine or not, but the one thing, the first immediate thing that I check is my home, is my house, or the house or the place I'm going in, is any lizard there or not. And I get nightmares about them sometimes, and I try to seek answers, like other most of the other people, through Google or right now through AI. And some of the points, they sometimes mention that there could be some past life connection, or maybe some kind of soul level connection to this. And sometimes, when you have lizards in your dreams, it may signal like that, your in mind is trying to give you a signal that you are having a kind of anxiety, or maybe something, your brain is trying to process some kind of danger in there. So it's like giving you these teeny tiny signals through these nightmares. So it makes absolute sense to me. And I hope that, listeners will also find some logic, even if they wouldn't believe in anything as past life, or maybe, other forms in which we have taken birth. Maybe, yeah.
That makes so much sense. See, that's an irrational behavior, okay, that you can't put it. So it probably comes through another lifetime, which again, you can do therapy, you can do meditation, you can be that
Mhm.
forgiving, that animal that could have somehow scared you in another life, or you were surrounded by them, or some family member was affected by them in another lifetime. They could have been bigger than they are today. So all of that comes into play because it doesn't make sense. But that's where you have to say, that was then. Thank you for the lesson. But I choose to break it in this life and not be affected. Now, let me just tell you another pattern for extreme
Yeah.
something. It's called cutting or breaking the connection. So I take a piece of string, okay? Make sure it's just natural string. It doesn't have wax or anything on it. And I put a little old pan or something below me. I get a long lighter. Okay. And first of all, on one side, I say my name and I say, I am happy. I am joyful. I
Mhm.
choose to release any of that toxic energy from another life, another time, this life or another, that I am afraid of lizards, spider, whatever your behavior is. And on the other side, you say, thank you, spider or lizard, from another time you taught me a lesson. I appreciate that lesson, but I choose to be healthy in this lifetime. So I am cutting, and I cut with the scissors, the bond,
Mhm.
the fear, and then I burn it in that little pan below. So I'm cutting any of that toxic energy that ties me. So that's another behavior. That's something you might try. So you just have to speak from your heart. Okay.
Mm. And this practice that you mentioned, uh, I believe the effect, because as a human we would expect that, okay, because this kind of these experiences are traumatizing for me, and I'm not able to find the exact reason here, or maybe if I have found the exact reason, I need a cure, I need a quick fix here. So does this practice is a one time thing, or we have to do it every day, or maybe consistently, or whenever we feel like that we need to do it?
You mean the cutting of the cord?
Yeah,
The cut.
yeah.
Sometimes people just have to do it once and it's done.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to do it 3, 4 times, but it's not something you have to do every day, because if you speak from your heart and commit, that energy should be broken. So, I've had a few people say, "Yeah, I've done it 3, 4 times to really make sure that I've broken that energy." And then it takes that conscious willingly to say, "Thank you for another lifetime or another place that I learned a lesson from you, but I don't have to be in fear of you now." Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So here's another example. You said sometimes we go into a place and we
Yeah.
say, that seems familiar. Well, I had a lady that had a reading from me, and she said, I want to know about Paris. So that's all she said. So I said, okay, there was a lifetime in Paris. This is World War I. Well, the world was in war, World War I. So we're talking 1916, or 13, 14, around that period. And I said, "You were a young girl, and the people that were wanting to take over your country, those soldiers were in your town, and they you, and you got pregnant." So she were
Uh-huh.
traumatized, and your family disowned you being a very strong religious thing. They thought you were with someone willingly. They never believed you. So you went to this little church on this side street, and all of a sudden she interrupted me. She said, "I know. I knew Paris. I know where all the streets were." She said, "And then I didn't go to the big cathedrals. I went to this little church on a side street, and I walked in there and I cried and I cried and I cried. And then I found peace. Then I found acceptance." She said, "Tell me what happened." So, what happened, she went there, she cried, the nuns came. She did lose the child, it was a miscarriage, but she never went home. She lived with those nuns. That was her life then. So when World War II came, and the Germans were there, she was a different person. She was strong. She wouldn't take anything from them. She worked with the resistance. She saved hundreds and hundreds of people, women, children, American pilots. So she found her strength from that trauma. So when she walked through Paris in this lifetime, just a couple years ago, and she was drawn to that alley, she just knew her way around Paris because, she walked. She never had a car, so she always walked. And she knew that little thing, church, and she cried. And that was that crying for that lifetime when she was raped. But then a peace came over her because she then was able, through the pain that she went through, to help hundreds and hundreds of people in World War II. See how a negative pattern sometime
Mm.
be also your gift.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. Actually, it can be. And it doesn't mean that, the negative pattern should always be assumed as a gift. But I think sometimes, um, we can look at the brighter side here, even if there is a negative pattern. And it's actually very surprising because Donna, I specifically like the feeling of being in a place which looks familiar, which I may not have seen even a picture online or I haven't explored, but somehow that place, sometimes even um, a person may look familiar, but I haven't seen them for any time in this life at least. And sometimes, yeah, deja vu. Like I know so many people, in fact, that everybody says that I'm having a deja vu. Like logically speaking or scientifically speaking, it may be because similar kind of pattern or moment has happened, and our subconscious mind it already knows that similar kind of output has happened or this moment has happened and it resulted in such scenario. But then sometimes there is no logical explanation behind the deja vu. Sometimes even with animals, there can be patterns like the examples we explored of lizards and spider for your daughter. So yeah, it all makes sense.
And when you talk about animals, this makes sense because some people go to like a rescue and they say, I'm going to get a big dog. That's what I've always had. And they see this little tiny dog, this scruffy dog, and they are just attracted to it because those souls could have been together in another lifetime. Or it could have been the big dog that they had in their childhood that's showing up now in a really scruffy little tiny body. But there's that instant attraction and you can't explain it. You're right. It's not rational, but you say, I am drawn to this little scruffy dog, and this is the one I'm taking home. And it's a match then. There's just a bond. There's a liking. There's a connection. See, so that can be at another time and another place. And we don't have to even know that. I know there's many pet owners out there that go, I don't know. It was just something about this animal that's why I wanted this animal. Well, that's that
Yeah.
attraction. That's that joy. See, they come to give us joy. They help to heal us. So in the world now, there's actually more cats than there are dog pets. And dogs are here to love us, but cats are here this time to heal us. So they help heal us. So that's why there's more cats right now on the planet then, because so many of us need healing from trauma, from disappointments, from, whatever we're carrying. So when you see a cat, or a dog, all you have to do is look at them and say, thank you, because they're doing a lot of work on this planet right now.
That is true. That is true. That's a very, very interesting point you made. Yes, yes. And we mentioned like because we're talking about animals. Uh, my grandfather, I mean maternal grandfather, when he passed away 25 years back, that was 1st February. So it's like literally 8 days back. We kind of celebrated his anniversary, death anniversary, like kind of a remembrance. And mother, she told me like a few years back, like when she got the news, I was actually in my, I was, I guess, what, uh, 7 or 8 years old at that time. I was having my exams, and my mother, she couldn't leave me alone and go back and see him. So there was always this kind of regret within her that she couldn't go and see her father, visit her father for the very last time. And she was very near and dear to him. I mean, she was like, so my mother and her younger sister, two daughters. So my grandfather was very, very much of my mother, but she couldn't visit because of my examinations. Deep down, sometimes I do have a bit of a regret about that. But sometimes you have to make hard choices. So she told me that immediately after she got the news, that immediate um, night, but exactly somewhere around the dawn, when she woke up, she kind of saw this white light in form of uh, her father, grandfather, like sitting on sofa, just looking at her, smiling, like he visited for the last time to see and bid goodbye to his daughter. And then the immediate and that morning, like after 3 or 4 hours, she saw a bird like perched on her house's window, eating grandfather's favorite food, what he used to love. I don't remember the exact food, but that's what my mom told me. The bird was eating, like he just went near that food item and it started like touching it and putting its beak onto it. And like my mother kind of smiled because she kind of felt that it's her father there, the soul it's there in that bird. So that really, really, like, it kind of sent chills down my spine when I heard that for the first time. These two instances.
Absolutely, I believe it. And people that don't believe in reincarnation have these experience when somebody they love passes. They kind of feel that person's around them to say goodbye or I love you. It could, and you don't sometimes get a whole image of them, but like a clouded image or an image in white. And then they they see, like this bird. I guarantee a soul, grandfather's soul, could be in that bird showing up to let your grandmother know that he was okay and he was going to fly away. And that was the validation of eating that same food. And you're right, it sends chills up your spine. But
Mm.
that was your grandfather saying to your mother, do not worry, do not fret. It's okay. I'm around you. I know you couldn't see me at the end, but here we are connecting. So again, that validates for many people that the soul never dies. It goes on and on and on. So, yeah. So when people that don't believe in it, I always kid them and say, it doesn't really matter you believe in it. When we're on the other side, we'll have this conversation, on the other dimension. Then we'll have this conversation and we'll see how it's working out over there. So that's what I leave it because people are only ready when they're ready. So, yeah.
That is true. That is a brilliant, brilliant answer to anyone who is skeptic about it. Oh, and Donna, I mean, you like let's talk about the practical side here because you mentioned about meditation, ritual therapy, maybe yoga. So let's say um someone comes to you through a reading, you identify a pattern from a past life. Um, let's say, for example, a fear of speaking their truth because in a past life they were punished or silenced for doing so. Like, what comes next? What is the first step that you advise them to do? Like the actual healing process.
Okay, so say we've discovered in another life they've been killed, they've been banished, or whatever. I say the first thing most people need to do is either cry, scream, yell, sometimes whatever that fits their personality, just to let it out because now they know. That's the first part of healing. Let it out, scream. And that's the first one because you've held that energy in you. It was locked in your soul. So you have to say, I'm releasing it. I'm yelling. I'm talking. Then you can start to heal. Then you can start to heal. So forgiveness is the first step, I say. Forgive
Mm.
yourself. Forgive the people that condemned you. The people, you don't have to accept them, but forgive them because if you don't forgive them, they're still getting space in your body and in your mind because they're still traumatizing. So release them. So that's releasing them. That's that first one. And then you start to do positive things for yourself. Say, that
Mm.
was then. Now I choose to do positive things. So get outside. Again, nature. Ground your feet. Some people have to take off their shoes, stand in the sand, stand in the dirt, stand on the grass. They say, I am here now. I choose to live this life fully and not let any of that fear or trauma come with me. So I am grounded. And they've proven 20 minutes of sunshine every day, melatonin gets you more positive, gets your energy up, gets you to think clearer. The other thing, and it sounds so, you know, down to earth, junk food. Because by eating
Mhm.
sugars too much or processed, you can't have any inner leadership. You can't think clearly. Other people can control your mind that way. This way, you are thinking natural foods, and vegetables, nuts, raisins, all the natural foods, salads that you can have. And then exercise somehow. I don't care. Walk fast, run, get a sport you like, but you get those endorphins. So you live in the moment and you're letting go of any trauma that has been bound in your body. And also gratefulness. Every day, say, every day is getting better. Every day, I'm happier. You know, every day, I'm glad that I'm on earth. And then instead of blaming everyone, this is what I say, it wasn't a good lesson or a bad lesson. It was just something I had to learn. So an event isn't good or bad. It's just a lesson I had to learn. Some are easier than other ones. But that's, you see, where you're substituting that trauma, that thing that you were holding on to in your body, and you're doing positive things to release it. I'm a meditator. I meditate 3 times a week. I know I'm supposed to meditate every day. Forget that. I don't have the time for that. But if you take 1 hour a week and you meditate, that starts to help you calm you down, give you intuition, and helps answer and release some of that fear.
Specifically, I love how holistic is this. It's not just that it just takes to your mind or your psychology. It also encompasses um, our physical strengths, or maybe, you know, like the one specific word that you mentioned is inner leadership. And I think that's all we strive about. So strive for. So, once again, going back to what we mentioned, I think sometimes these negative patterns can really be stepping stone to our to have an enriching life. And it's not just the money or the living standard, but holistically how enriching our life can be. So, Donna, this was really, really a brilliant way to start. And of course, forgiveness and gratitude at the same time. Instead of blaming everything, let's be thankful that, we are alive. We're living another day on this beautiful planet, irrespective of whatever is happening around us. We're
Right?
still living, and we are not just trying to survive, but we are striving for thriving. So that's what, as a human, I think our major goal should be.
Well, I like how you kind of wrapped it up. And you know what? We design our lives. We are given a lot of difficult challenges, every human being on this planet. But again, don't look at those as negative. Look at those as a play of getting closer to our own soul, to healing, to seeing the truth, to having more kindness, more acceptance, and more love. So that way, it's still a challenge, but there can be some tremendous growth and outcome.
Totally, totally. And Donna, always a ritual if our listeners they would like to seek some more wisdom on this. They would like to connect with you. Maybe they have their own experiences to share, just like I did with you, how they can reach out to you.
The best way is my website. So it's under my name, Donna, Donna, Hartley, HARTLEY.com. And you'll know it's mine because there's a plane crash across the top. There's a slider and a plane crash. Now, there's a brand new video on the front, and it's called Zip It, Pay Attention. And it talks about asking for change, meditating, and then intuition, and then action. It's about 8 minutes. It's great. Plus, there's other videos they can look at. There's other articles in there. So that is the best way to get in touch with me. And they'll see my books that I have and meditation tapes and everything like that. So I would say go to my website.
Absolutely. Listeners, you heard it from Donna. And as I always do it for you, I'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes. So reach out to Donna, explore more about her journey, her story on her website, check out her videos. And also, as we wrap up, I think this was such a passionate conversation, listeners, because I think irrespective of the misconceptions, this conversation bothered you or moved you or made you think differently, listeners. And that's what these conversations are for. Not to provide easy answers, but to help us ask better questions. So, for some of you, maybe this will be connecting with, or for some of you, it will be skeptical, but still appreciate that you have the openness to listen to this episode, to to explore more about past life experiences and what patterns we are having. So, Donna, thank you so much once again for this beautiful conversation. And yeah, thank you. This was really amazing.
Good. It was my blessing to be on your podcast.
Thank you. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning into the Mindful Journey. Thank you for bringing your open mind and your healthy skepticism. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcast and leave us a review because it helps more people find these conversations. Until next time, this is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.